You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening right now in Philadelphia? Well, if you missed it, make sure you stay locked on with the Philadelphia 76ers. What's going on, everybody? I'm Kayla Santiago, your host for this podcast here today. And we have to touch on just so much right now because there's a lot brewing in Philadelphia and not in a good way. So what happened last night after the game, the 76ers, they fall to the Memphis Grizzlies 124-107. Not only that, but a ton of reports coming out. So we're going to start off with this report coming out on Twitter that there was rumors that Joel Embiid shoved a reporter after the game. Now, there was a lot of people saying, what's going on? What happened? Which reporter did he shove? Well, it comes out that it was Marcus Haynes who eventually wrote a report about Joel Embiid 2 days ago. We're going to take a look at that very report as well. Goes a little bit overboard and talks about Joel Embiid's deceased brother, his son, and Joel took offense to that. So there's a lot to break apart right now. Was it too much for this reporter to go into that, or was it not? Is Joel Embiid just feeling a bit of the pressure not playing and the Sixers being down? I'm going to get my thoughts, and you guys let me know what you think. It is absolutely ridiculous that was put out about Joel Embiid. Personally, I don't think that you need to put that out, especially as being journalists. You look at it right now and you say, okay, well, yeah, you can talk about his play. You can talk about how he played in the Olympics and he's not going to be playing right now during the regular season. You can talk about how the 76ers need him to play. But when you bring his brother and his son into it, it's a little bit overboard. Do I think that Joel Embiid should have shoved him? No. And reports are coming out right now consistently that it was just a shove. It was just a shoulder. But the guy is 7 foot tall and pretty huge. So a shove from Joel Embiid is not just a little shove from myself. It definitely can be a big one. So I will never revert to violence in those situations. But what I do think is that the report was very overboard. And I understand why Joel Embiid is frustrated. In addition to that, he also talks about how they went at it in the locker room after the game. Joel saying, if you ever say that again about my son and my brother, there will be more consequences that I will have to live up to. So this is clearly really weighing on Joel Embiid's mind. Let me know what you guys think about this. I think the article was way too overboard and that you should not bring anybody's personal matters into the action. It can be tough. This is what's being reported right now. This is what's happening. So we're going to wait and see what the NBA is going to do. So the NBA is going to investigate this matter and see what happens. There's a chance that Joel Embiid might be suspended for a few games. We don't know that yet. I don't have any insider information on what the NBA is going to do right now. But the crazy thing when you look at it is the Sixers have 1 win and they have 2 NBA investigations. So it just hasn't been going too well for this team throughout the season so far. So Joel Embiid getting into a situation with a reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and you look at it right now at the table setting, Joel Embiid is awaiting to see what the NBA is going to do. A little bit too much for me, if you ask, reporting on his brother and his son. I understand they're NBA players and I understand they are treated like celebrities, but they're still human beings and they still have a life outside of basketball. And that should not be put on display for everybody to see. And if you read the article too, there's really no correlation between his brother and what is going on and what he's talking about. He mentions the legacy of Joel Embiid, wanting to really put that on the map for his son Arthur, and then it goes into his brother, and it didn't need to be put in there that much. So a lot's going to unfold from that situation. We're just going to have to wait and see right now. That's the game that's happening. My takeaway from this is that you should not report on something like that. Now, people might disagree with me and say, well, Joel Embiid is just unhappy with how the season's playing out. Come on, guys. If they were talking about his bad play, I get it. But they're talking about a personal matter, and that just does it for me a little bit too much. We're going to go into the game, though, because that's not the only thing that's bad for the Philadelphia 76ers. Their play, it's been so tough right now. And clearly there's a lot of other things going on outside of just playing basketball, and that's weighing on this team. So I want to see more of Jerry McCain. This is somebody the last 2 games who has really made a difference. He had 19 points last night, 4 rebounds, 7 for 14 from the field. So he has been very, very good in his minutes played. I want to see them push him a little bit. Now, somebody that you look at is Caleb Martin. Now, Caleb Martin is somebody, when Keith and I did this podcast just a few days ago, said we like him as a point forward because it takes a little bit of pressure off Tyrese Maxey. But now Caleb Martin is feeling that pressure. So I think that's going to be relieved once Paul George comes back. I know it will. And Caleb can kind of go back to that off-ball hustle guy, being able to knock down some tough shots guy. But right now, there's just a lot of pressure on him to try to balance things between him and Tyrese Maxey. So I think that Caleb Martin definitely struggled a little bit last night as well. And for Tyrese Maxey, 23 points, 6 assists, along with 3 steals. I mean, this guy is just playing so much right now. We don't know when the superstars are going to come back. Everybody hopes it's going to be soon, especially on Monday. So we're going to have to wait and see if it is. And then not only that, Kelly Oubre, 14 points, 2 steals, 8 for 16 point land, but they do fall in a really big matchup, 124-107. So the play hasn't been good out there. They're 1-4 overall. And it's just been really tough to see how the Sixers team is kind of imploding right now. We're going to wait and see if it gets better, though. I think that when Joel Embiid and Paul George come back, everything is really going to fall into line. I'm not saying that's going to happen right away, but I'd rather them start off with a slow season and get those guys back fully healthy than rush those guys back and say, okay, well, now you have to move on, and these guys are going to be 50% throughout the rest of the season. Wait until those guys are healthy to get them back. And we don't know what's going to happen with Joel. He might be on suspension, so you might have to be waiting even longer to bring him back. But Paul George, hope to see him in the near future because this team really needs it. So let's take a look at some of their upcoming games real quick. So they're going to play the Suns on November 4th. Then the 6th, they play the Clippers. Then it's the Lakers. Then it's the Hornets. And then it's the Knicks. This is a really tough stretch for Philadelphia with or without their superstars. So I'm going to put it right now without their superstars because there's just been too much going on to have a normal game with Paul George and Joel Embiid coming right back. So I'm going to go, they fall to the Suns, they fall to the Clippers, they fall to the Lakers, they beat the Hornets, and they lose to the Knicks. That has them coming out of that game stretch at 1-4. Now, I see that without Joel Embiid and without Paul George. If they get both of those guys back, this could definitely change things here. If they do, I still think that they fall to the Suns if they're going to be able to be back on Monday just because it's going to be their first game back. Win against the Clippers, loss against the Lakers, win against the Hornets. Now I'm going to go with victory against the Knicks if they end up playing in these games. It's a what if right now. So we're going to see what the Philadelphia 76ers can do. But it has been a really tough start to the season, people. I mean, you look at it right now, and it's not even just about those guys not playing. There's been so many storylines going in to this team. You look at another NBA investigation with Joel Embiid after all of this happening, and it's really tough for the squad right now. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe right here on Locked On 76ers. We're going to be with you each and every day discussing this big West Coast trip coming up for the Philadelphia 76ers and what's going to unfold and happen with Joel Embiid. There's a lot that could. We're going to see how the NBA investigates this. It's going to take some time right now to see how this is going to end up. So Joel could be sitting out even more time than we think just based on that suspension and the injury. But if he doesn't get suspended, if everything ends up being okay, then it will all be okay, we think. Now, the comments at the end of the game might hurt him as well, but at the end of the day, it's a guy looking out for his family. There's not many times where Joel goes out and talks about his family. He keeps that stuff very close to the chest and very private. And for this time, I am with the big fella. I think it was a little bit too much. And I understand people might say, all right, well, he's a professional basketball player. Get over it. They're still human beings, people. This is crossing the line, way crossing the line. Once again, a shove, a push. I don't think you go to that, but there was an altercation in the locker room that led to that, and that's how it ended up being. So, more investigations for the Philadelphia 76ers. When will this all stop? We don't know. All we do know is that we will be with you Monday through Friday discussing all of these games, going over and following the Joel Embiid situation right here on Locked On 76ers. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode here today. I'm Kayla Santiago, once again, your host, and we will see you throughout the week, being sure to break down everything Philadelphia 76ers. We also have a newsletter, so be sure to check that out Monday through Friday. That's the Locked On 76ers newsletter. So make sure you subscribe and check your inbox to get all the latest updates in writing, in podcast form, and everything in between. So long for now, people. Thank you all so much for tuning in.